entrepreneur. The average a Lord Mayor, and if you don't know what a Lord Mayor is, it's like a Lord Provost. Have you heard of the Lord Provost? Same kind of thing. Or a provost in some of the smaller cities. So I did that for a year, and I thought when I got the job, I'm going to be really entrepreneurial and use my background in business to try and raise as much money as possible. And I did it. And it was great because I raised money for a breast cancer charity, for a homeless charity, for a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender charity. A young lad, 18, got killed, could have been the prime of his life, and he got killed simply because he was gay. So I helped that charity, and I also helped Variety, which is a children's charity, and helping children with special educational needs. Because in fact, one of the reasons why I'm quite entrepreneurial is when I lived in Edinburgh, I was actually born in Leith, as you say, in the shadow of the Hibs ground. Any Hibs supporters? Don't be shy. Any Hearts supporters?
Absolutely.
Oh, well, there we are. That's one of you then. I'm neither. I'm not really hugely into football, but I was born in the shadow of the Hibs ground, in a working class family, lived in a room and kitchen. You won't know what that is. Not even Jonathan would know what that is. He's not old enough. A room and kitchen is basically mum and dad slept in a bed behind a curtain in the kitchen. And that's what we had in those days, a tenement. And that tenement was demolished because it wasn't fit for purpose. And I moved to Birdie House and then Gracemount. But going back to special educational needs, my brother, Leslie, is thalidomide. So he was born with his limbs, but can't speak and can't hear, and has a paralyzed face and no ears. And all the way through his life, people used to point and laugh and stare and all sorts of stuff, horrible stuff. What do you think that does to a young brother? Gets you quite angry, doesn't it, you would think? You want to protect your brother. So as I grew up, one of the things I wanted to do is help children with special educational needs, and I still do that today. And in fact, since I was Lord Mayor, 6 of Liverpool's special educational needs schools have adopted me as a patron for each of the schools because I'm still raising money for them. And I'm going to come back to the special educational needs story in a second because it's really quite important to you if you're going into business. Who here has invented something? Where's VH Innovation? You've invented something? Where's VH Innovation? Where are you? There. Brilliant. Can I make a suggestion? When you go to events, wear your recoil knee pads. Because we need to know what it looks like and how it is. Touch and feel and understand. How many people don't feel comfortable getting on a stage and talking? Put your hands up if you don't feel comfortable about it. No? You could learn to be better. Practice makes you better. You might not think it, but when I was in my teens, very introverted, didn't speak to anybody apart from my friends, my mates from school. And you know, I came back last night for the first time in 2 years because my parents are dead now, so I've got less reason to come back. Very few family left in Edinburgh. And I met my auntie, Auntie Ina. She's 82. She knits bagpipers. Have you seen the little knitted bagpipers? She sells those in Frederick Street, Castle Street. She sells those and she makes money out of it by knitting. She's a business lady. She knits a new thing called Cinderella Ragamuffin. Have you heard of that? Oh, I went into the shop with her yesterday and there is this doll, pride of place. And she went, there is Cinderella looking gorgeous in a ball gown. And then I went over and you turn it upside down. You take the dress inside out and there's another body underneath. And that body is Cinderella as a ragamuffin with a patched dress on and whatever. Very intricate. And she's knitted that. She makes those every single week. And you know, it takes her about 3 days and she charges £15. Not a great deal, is it? So I'm going, where's the business opportunity where we could make her more money? But actually, it's not about making money. She's 82. She's still very active. She came into town. We went to the Dome. We had a nice breakfast stroke lunch, and it was lovely to see her. And she's happy with £15. So it's not always about making money. In her case, it's about the social value. It's about putting something back into charity because she shares half the money with the charity. So she gets £7.50 and they get £7.50. So actually, business isn't always about you making lots of profits. Who wants to make lots of profits? Don't be shy. Yes. Who wants to put something back into the community? Even more, and that's brilliant, and that's what business should really be about. I have, in terms of businesses, is my presentation working? Do I have a little clicker somewhere? That one, let's just see if it works. Oh, this is what partly I'm meant to be talking about. The mindset as an entrepreneur and why I've set up the business I have and the peaks and troughs experienced along the way. It's about storytelling, to be honest, and I will just tell you stories. Who mentioned LinkedIn before? That's my LinkedIn. That's my profile. It's also on Twitter. It's consistent. Loves people, loves inspiring. Don't always do that. Loves business, loves advising, and you'd be surprised to hear, loves talking as well, loves listening, and was a past Lord Mayor. Now, I'm a politician as well, and I say that for a reason, do forgive me, but it says their own views and random musings. This is my LinkedIn. I'm actually not looking for a job at BrewDog, although it sounds fantastic, although I don't drink alcohol. Who drinks beer here? Put your hands up if you drink beer. Who doesn't drink alcohol? Yeah. But BrewDog is a fantastic company if you can go in your pajamas and play table tennis every day. I love that. And you can get my profile on LinkedIn there. You can get that on Twitter as well. Something interesting I've done on my LinkedIn profile. Anybody here speak Chinese? Yes? That's my Chinese profile. English and Chinese. My LinkedIn profile isn't English and French, isn't English and German, or English and Portuguese. And I say that for a reason. It's English or Scottish and Chinese. Because actually, what is going to be in the next 10 years, the largest economic global power in the world will be China. I just come back from Shanghai 2 weeks ago. 25 million people officially living in Shanghai. 32 million people living there unofficially, including the official. Beijing, 15 to 20. Guangzhou, 25. In an area the size of the Lothians, 115 million people, all spending money, all getting paid. Actually, not all of them. I've got to be honest, a lot of them getting paid what you'd get paid here in Edinburgh, Glasgow, London. 25 million people with 1,000 billionaires living in Shanghai. 1,000 billionaires. And do you know what they love? And this is really quite strange. They love British, Scottish, and English products. If you can put a flag on it, you can put a tartan on it, you can put something to do with the royal family on it, and the Chinese will buy it in its bucket loads. It's a great entrepreneurial paradise waiting to happen. And therefore, because I'm doing a lot of work with Shanghai, and actually I've just helped somebody sign a £20 million project in Shanghai, I thought, well, at least I could show that I'm listening. So I put my profile in Chinese as well. Former Lord Mayor, diversity and equality champion. Who's seen the film Pay It Forward? Anyone? It sums me up. That's who I am. And I cry when I see things like that, and I cry when I hear lovely, interesting, emotional stories. And do you know what? You shouldn't be afraid to cry, because emotion is incredibly important in life and very important in business. Now, somebody said something about I actually disagreed partly. On the panel here, the Employability Enterprise panel, research what your employer is going to be like when you go for the interview. Do you dress down? Do you dress up? My view is you find the employer where you are comfortable being yourself, not the person they try to make you be. Now, that's controversial with some people because you want to get a job. But actually, if you go in on a Monday and you're used to wearing a suit and it's now it's a shirt, loose shirt, and a pair of jeans, you might not be entirely comfortable with that. But in the vice versa, you might not be comfortable in a suit. I'm very comfortable in a suit, but I'm also very comfortable in jeans. But if you don't enjoy your job, you don't enjoy going in on a Monday, it's the wrong job for you, even if it's giving you experience, because you're not going to be yourself and you're not going to give 100% commitment to the job that you're trying to do. And you've got to give 100% commitment and believe in yourself. It's about self-belief. And if you change who you are to suit other people, there's a problem. That's part of the diversity, part of the equality, not the only part of it. Pay it forward. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a fundraiser. Have you heard of Parr Street Studios? No? Have you heard of Coldplay? First 3 albums, Parachutes, X and Y, Rush of Blood to the Head, all done in my studios. I own a studio. I bought it from Genesis, the band. You're far too young to remember Genesis, but you might know Phil Collins in the Cadbury's Dairy Milk ad where he was bashing the drums. Well, it wasn't actually Phil Collins because he was dressed as a gorilla, but that was the music from Phil Collins, who was part of Genesis, and there was somebody before that as well. But Genesis owned it, I bought it, and everybody said, what do you know about music? Not a great deal. I can't sing. I don't play any instruments. I can't actually engineer. I can't mix. When I bought it in 2006, but actually, I've taught myself how to actually engineer. I use Logic and Pro Tools. I can actually work in music and have since produced 4 very good selling, not best selling, but very good selling albums. And when I say good, I'm talking about 30,000 albums in terms of numbers of copies. And every album has gone to charity. Every sale has been put back into the community, from UNICEF through to LGBT causes. And I think that's really important. But I taught myself a lot about music, but people said, don't go into it, yeah, it'll never work. But actually, why would a VC, why would a business angel invest in a business? It isn't about necessarily the angel or the investor understanding the business. It's about understanding the process. How do you go from pre-sales to sales to paying your debts and doing your taxes and putting in your accounts at the end of the year? All those kind of things are just purely process. It's the product that you put into it that works, and the product will only sell if you've got the passion, the heart, to go out and sell it. And actually, that's what I did understand, because for years, I owned, and I sold it in 2004, I built a business writing computer software. I wrote in SQL Server, ASP.NET. I wrote originally in BASIC, Fortran, job control language, and even at the very beginning, and you'll probably never heard of this, binary. Do you know what binary is? Zeros and ones. I could write in zeros and ones. I could make the lights go on and off, and I was so impressed. And that's the reason why I was living in Liverpool, because I studied computer architecture, technology, programming at Liverpool's John Moores University. Although in those days, again, Jonathan won't know because he's not old enough, it was actually called a polytechnic, a poly. And that's what I went down to, went from Edinburgh, London, Edinburgh, back to Liverpool in 1983. Studied, got a distinction, stayed on, have been there ever since, created a whole batch of businesses, which I'm now going to give you some examples of. I'll come back to that. Right. There's a whole batch of things that I've done on that screen. You can get them on LinkedIn. You don't need to take photographs of it now. And it's not really that important, except I was president of PSS. Now, you won't know what PSS is, but have you heard of Age Concern? They created Age Concern. They also created Relate. Have you heard of Relate? Marriage guidance? That started with PSS. So I was president of PSS. I was also regional president of the Chartered Management Institute and a board member of the Arts Council, deciding where about 100 million went every year in England in terms of funding for cultural activities. A director of an innovative project called Step Clever. Liverpool has 4 of the most deprived, disadvantaged communities in the whole of the UK. It's in the top 10 of all of them. I mean, there are lots of problems there. High unemployment, quite a bit of crime. It is changing. So the government, together with the city council and myself, set up a thing called Step Clever. It wasn't just me, it was a lot of people. We set up Step Clever to actually inspire enterprise in disadvantaged communities. And it was hugely successful, hugely successful. BIDs, bids. It's where you as a business owner, if you live in a bid, you pay, or you work in a bid, your business pays 1 or 1.2% extra on your business rates to pay for enhanced security, enhanced marketing, enhanced cleaning. And I actually am on the board of 2 bids in Liverpool as well. And I was head of culture and tourism. I'll forget that. In fact, I've got awards, and one of the awards is I am actually officially the best dressed businessman in Merseyside. I genuinely keep that in my wardrobe. Genuinely, it is in the wardrobe, although it's quite funny I do that. And I've won quite a number of awards. One of the ones I won this year, it wasn't an award, but there's a top 50 LGBT, that's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. I'm in the top 20. I'm number 16, only beaten by HSBC, Vodafone, and others. And I'm the first individual, because I'm out, I'm gay, and I have been out since I was in Edinburgh 30-odd years ago, and I have a partner of 34 years. And I'm telling you that not because that actually defines me. Your sexuality doesn't define you. Your color doesn't define you. Your religion does not define you. What defines you is what's here and how you get on with other people. And actually, although I got that, it's one of the kind of awards I'm actually impressed that they do it, but actually, do you register that? Would you be registered? Would you be in the top 50 black or Jewish or Muslim or whatever? Is that appropriate or not? It wasn't quite, but in that case, I got this from Michael Cashman, who was an MEP and a former EastEnders actor. Do you remember Michael Cashman? No? Oh, I'll move on. Let me just go forward slightly. No, not that one. We're almost finished, actually, because let's move forward. There. Now, I'm currently in charge of business for Liverpool. And part of that means that I can write my own CV. Nobody tells me what to do. I actually go out every day and I decide what I'm going to do with business, but it leads into what Europe is doing, what the UK government is doing, and what the local government and the local regional authority is doing. And I talk to all these people, but I'm not happy because there's not enough. And I can't say what it's like in Edinburgh or Glasgow or Thurso or Aberdeen or whatever else you're from. In Liverpool, there is no money for pre-start and start-up advice. There's nobody doing it because there's no money to do it. Nobody's paying for it. Austerity has hit us quite hard. So I said, well, I'm not having that on my watch. So I've set up the UK's first entrepreneur in residence scheme, and I've been doing it for 5 weeks now, and I've met 100 different pre-start and start-up inventors and businesses and whatever else, because nobody else is doing it. I'm mentoring, I'm guiding, I'm challenging, I'm listening, and that's what we all should be doing. Thank you to Fiona and the team at SIE for doing that too. Thank you to the interns and the universities for what they're doing as well. Thank you to Jonathan for helping host today. In fact, can we have a round of applause for Jonathan? I don't think he's had one yet. Now, you happy with that?
Thank you.
Good. But actually, do you know, I've gone from Leith to Liverpool, and I'm really proud of the fact I'm working class, and I've been able to buy a recording studios. But I also bought a stair edgings business. Do you know the metal steps, the metal edges that go on steps? I invented 2 products. The bright yellow stair edging that you see in emergency exits, I invented that in 1990. I also invented a phosphorescent stair edging. That is one that glows in the dark if the lights go off. And I did that in 1989. And because I invented both of those, somebody came and bought my business out. And I'm really proud of that. But I've got to say, I don't know how recoil was invented, or the idea came, but my inventions, the 2 of them, were mistakes. I actually bought into a business that was failing, that sold products to builders and construction companies and flooring contractors, and I stopped selling to them, and I went straight to architects and interior designers who write specifications and invitation to tenders, and they decide what product is being used. So I completely shook up the market, and basically I'm a disruptor. I see opportunities. I say, but why are you not doing it that way? And it might be completely naive, and it generally is, but it generally works as well, because entrepreneurs tend to take a calculated risk. They're not going to put all of their finance at risk and whatever else. They'll do that with VCs or business angels probably. But what I did do, and what I continue to do, is I spot these little opportunities. But what I discover is, even if you engineer something to happen, it only happens if you network. It only happens if you come to events like this. It only happens if you listen to your lecturers at university or at college, or you listen to SIE and so on. But what I actually did with the inventions is I wanted to compete with my biggest competitor, who had lit stair edgings. And I said, well, I want lit stair edgings that go into clubs. So when you're in a disco in those days, Fiona, you might remember discos, but you go up the steps and there's these lovely lit stair edgings, tiny little bulbs. Now they'd be LED. But in order to do that, you needed an engineer, an electrician, and I couldn't afford to do that. It was a small business. So I said, well, I want them to glow in the dark. So I went to the PVC, UPVC compound, the plastics compound company, and I said, can I have the ones that glow in the dark, can I have fluorescent compound, please? And that's like your marker pens, you know, the greens and the yellows and the oranges and what. Well, that's what it's like. And that lights up in the dark if there's UV lighting. So if there's a black light or a UV light, it lights up. It's not what I wanted. I want one that actually lights if the lights went out completely. And so I asked for fluorescent. What should I have asked for? Anybody know? Phosphorescent, yeah. That's what I should have asked for. So I got a whole range of bright day glow colors, thousands of meters, and I started selling those. And then I got phosphorescent, and they still appear today in emergency accesses in hospitals and in clubs, etc., because they light under black lights or UV lights. It's not really what I intended, but that's what happened. And then finally, my other invention was a yellow one. McDonald's architect, you know McDonald's restaurants, Mackey's? Their architect came to me and says, could you do yellow stair edgings to go with our corporate colors? Because you've got red, can you do yellow as well? I said, well, I'm sure I can. So actually McDonald's started buying my yellow stair edgings. And then they started getting used on buses and in emergency access, emergency exits. That wasn't what I wanted or dreamed would have happened, but it's what I did. And I sold my business because of those 2 products and made quite a bit of money out of it. So I walked away from it in 1992 with some money in my pocket, and then I went off and opened my first computing company. I'm going to move fast forward because my time has run out, I can see on this. Well over run. Special educational needs. 2 years ago, I had a competition, a schools competition. In fact, it was 3 years ago now, with the Kaufman Foundation out of Kansas in Chicago. And the Kaufman Institute or Foundation asked us to do things in Liverpool for the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. I don't know if it's been to Glasgow or Edinburgh yet, but it goes all around the world. And we held it, and I said I wanted a schools competition. When we had the quarterfinal, there was one school, secondary school, that was late, and it was called Bank View. And they explained they were late because of all the 22 secondary schools, one of them was special educational needs, and it's late. So when they arrived 10 minutes later, I went over, I introduced myself, I asked them who they were. They told me, one boy put his hand up, I'm the sales director. Another lady put her hand up, I'm the managing director. Didn't give me their names. And this is a school with Asperger's, autism, Down syndrome, etc., and mobility issues. And they all told me their titles, not their names. And I said to the teacher, how are you going to get on? And she said, they're going to fail. That was her words in front of the young people. And I said, really? She said 85% of those with special educational needs do not go into full-time education, don't go into further education, higher education, or get a job. 85% don't. So she said they're going to fail. Well, they went for the Dragon's Den interview. They never got through because it was the wrong kind of environment for them. And I said I'd come and see them. So I went the next week. And this is my final story. And it's really quite an important one. And I went into the school, and they all stood up, and they all applauded. And I said, oh, thank you so much. Sit down. Where is this cake you're going to sell me? And they went off and got this. They run into another room. They bought a Heroes or a Celebrations can, and they opened this big thing. The air popped. They turned it over, dropped it in my hand, big cake. And I said, how much is this? And they said, £5. And I went, wow, are you making any profit on this? And remember, this is people that the school itself thinks that we as a society, from a job point of view or educationally, have been written off. And they said, straight away when I said, how much are you making? £2.35, sir, is what they said. Straight away. I thought, wow, they get this. And I said, no, actually, it's a cake. I'm not sure if I can eat it. What are the ingredients? And then one of them, his name is Sean, said, sir, if you turned it over, the ingredients are written underneath. And I went, no, just tell me, what are they? And he went, from Sean, who was the sales director, he said, mixed fruit. Then the next person, mixed nuts, and then brown sugar, and then egg, and then so on and so on. I went, fantastic. Is that them all? And then Sean put his hand up again, and he said, no, sir. The most important, remember special educational needs. I said, the most important? He said, the biggest ingredient is love. Now, you might think that's cute, and well, what's the importance in this? If you're in business, you've got to be in business for this. Use this to make it successful. Use this to tell people about it. And do the logistics, do the finance, do the administration, do all that as well. If you don't do it, get other people to help you to do it. But love is the most important thing in life because that's what makes you successful. If you hate going into work on a Monday, if you hate doing what you're doing in business, change it completely. Reinvent your life. Do a Madonna, changing every 5 or 6 years. Because you have to reinvent. You have to move on. Life changes around you. Don't sit, as a family business in particular, don't sit and always do what you've always done and think, oh, I'm going to be successful. But you see everybody else is doing much more around you. Keep relearning, but always remember, it's the love that's in there and the passion that actually works. And if you've got the opportunity, pay it forward. If you think you can help somebody else, don't look for thanks. Don't look for an applause. Actually, ask them to do it for somebody else. Pass it on. That's what pay it forward means. And that's how I live my life. I never wanted the awards. I didn't ask for awards. I didn't ask for titles. I didn't ask to be the Lord Mayor of Liverpool, but I was given that honor. And you know what? The best honor for a Leither from Edinburgh, from a room and kitchen, to eventually be wearing a £2 million chain and being able to do things like this. Thank you to Fiona for inviting me, because Fiona met me in Liverpool at the NACU European Conference, the National Association for College and University and Enterprise, which we did in January, was it? I think it was January, and she asked me to come along and speak to you today. So I hope you've learned something from it today. If you want to get in touch with me, what's my Twitter address? I want you to do one more thing. Can we just do this? And I am finished. So we took a photograph at the beginning, didn't we? Now, depending on how comfortable you are, and this is about selling, this is about empathy, I want you all to stand up for a second, please. Go on, don't be shy. You do one of two things. You either do a high five or you give the person next to you a hug. Whatever you want to do, high five or hugs, and I will take a picture. Go on, don't be shy. Oh, fantastic. I'm going to tweet that now. Ladies and gentlemen, that's one of the first rules of business, is actually empathy, is actually thinking about your friends around you. Give each other a hug whenever you can. Do a high five. If you can't do that and you don't feel comfortable doing that, you're never going to be a great salesperson. That is one of the first rules about selling, is about getting into somebody else's space. And when you leave a meeting, before you leave, ask for the order. Don't walk out without getting the order, or at least an affirmative action. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.